Right, so first off, thank you everybody for coming and joining us on the session today. So we are going to go over some exciting new features and functionality that is coming to the CloudCover suite. I know there's quite a few people that are obviously very excited for some new things that Richard's going to be talking about. So as with all our events, please feel free to use the chat functionality. Please feel free to use Q&A. We want to be able to answer as many questions that you have and make it as interactive as possible. So the webinar follows on from an in-person event that we had on the 10th of November. And even though we're in marketing and we're miracle workers, the best laid plans don't go ahead sometimes. And we had to cancel the webinar portion of the event due to internet connectivity issues, despite having about 3 business continuity plans in place after that. So anyway, we're here now, and it's given everyone a bit more of an opportunity to come in and see what's going on. So again, thank you for being here and available and patient and joining us today. So I'm just going to hand over to Richard first to go over his session now. You're muted, Richard. It's always the same.
Oh, that's the start of every meeting, Nikki. That's the traditional welcome. You're muted, followed by hello. Right then, so we'll start the session. So I'd just like to start by, I'm going to thank Pierre. So Pierre's coming up soon after this, talking about our solution and how it fits into the market. So I'm going to just thank Pierre because he really has helped us see the strengths and weaknesses in what we've done. And then secondly, I'm going to thank Matt Hollis from Veeam, who basically laid the challenge of this 365 Azure backup stuff down to us on Veeam on tour. So we may not have accelerated it up our dev stuff quite as quickly if he hadn't have laid us down that challenge. So what is it all about? Well, as with everything we do, it's about Veeam Plus, and Veeam Plus CloudCover. So adding to Veeam features that Veeam doesn't have. And basically, this combination of Veeam Plus CloudCover is what's giving us innovative ideas and solutions that are different and stand out from other offerings on the market. So Azure's got lots of stuff in it, and it's obviously the background to 365. So we've got, within there, we've got Azure AD or Intra ID as it's now called. But there's all these other things as well: Power Platform, Planner, Security and Compliance, OneDrive, and all these things have got configurations and setups that basically govern how the 365 tenancy works. So we looked at all these things, and we've decided initially to focus on Intra ID, but the rest of them will be coming. And we've come on to CloudCover Azure Backup. And we called it Azure Backup because obviously there's a lot more to Azure than just Intra ID, but initially that's where we've started. So what's protected? So Entra ID has got a lot of stuff in it. It's got users, it's got groups, policies, applications, so things like Salesforce defined roles, social media policies. There's lots and lots of different things that are in there. And firstly, there's stuff in there that just isn't in the local AD. So people have said to me, well, I'm just going to replicate to my local Active Directory. That's fair enough, but there's things that are in Entra ID that aren't in your local directory. So as a DR plan, that's probably not going to work. So we've focused on 38 different objects that are within the Entra ID at the moment. And we actually plan on protecting over 250 configuration items, most of which from the cloud that I showed you before of the groups. And there's 10 different groups. There was 10 different words on the cloud. As I said, everything from backing up Exchange configurations, Teams configurations, all your compliancy settings, etc., etc. So that's what we're protecting. So initially daily, but we've already updated that to 2 daily since these slides were created about 3 weeks ago. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a backup. So the first thing we'll do is we'll take a snapshot copy of this configuration. So we can see that we've got a snapshot since the initial one, and we can see that between the two, that there's been some changes. These two aren't the same. So from here, we're going to look at the differences. So we're going to report on these differences. We can see that Nestor's in here. He's new. There's been things that have come out the sales group because Nestor was in the sales group. And we can see that Salesforce has got a new owner. So it's interesting because configurations probably shouldn't change. Now, user configurations may change, but other configurations shouldn't change. So we probably want to know why. We probably want to know what they are. So each time we run these backups twice a day, the result will be an email, and the email will tell you exactly what's happened. So which items have changed and how they've changed. And we'll come on later when we actually do a live demo or a semi-live demo to show you exactly what the impact of that is when we're looking at restores. So then on to the final part, the actual restore. So we know what's changed, we know what's different. So we can actually just revert it. So we can go, well, actually, you know what, I didn't particularly want Salesforce to have a change of owner, or actually Nestor was deleted by mistake. I really want him back, and I don't want the overhead of having to configure him, putting all back in all his groups, etc., etc. So the restores the final part of this little jigsaw puzzle. So let's see it going. So what's it look like? So what I did here, and I'm pleased I did, given our lack of internet at our event, was I pre-recorded these little screenshots, particularly as there's some pauses and some time in between lots of the things that are going on anyway. So this is the this is our tool. So you can see that this is very, very much based, and it is the same as our 365 backup tool. So it's been integrated. So you can see on here, we've got our existing 365 backup job, and here is a new tab, and on here we have our Azure backups. So we can see we've got one Azure backup job, and we'll click on the backup job, and we can see that it's been merrily running away. And in the background, we can see that how many changes had occurred. Obviously, we've been messing around testing. So how many changes have occurred between each backup, and how long the backup's taken. And in the beta, we haven't got the full details of what's gone on, but that will be there in the full version. So finally, the restore. So exactly the same restore tool. So the restore tool we're using for everything else. So the restore tool that we currently use for Exchange, etc., etc. So you can see our Exchange restore tool and the same restore tool for Azure. So on here, we can see from this grid that there's been some backups, and on the days where the blue squares are, or where there's been some changes, and if we click on those and have a quick look, we can actually go in and see exactly what's changed on that particular backup. So introducing Nestor. So Nestor's part of our tenancy we've got on here that we've been using, and we can see Nestor up here. We can see that Nestor's a fully functioning person, I believe, is in sales, and we can see that Nestor's got emails. He's got emails in his inbox. We can have a look at those emails, and there's Nestor. So we've introduced Nestor, proved is an entity, and that he exists. So whoops. Nestor's dead. So originally I was trying to play on Top Gun here with Jester's dead, but people might not get it, so I'll just move on swiftly. So anyway, so Nestor's dead. So what we can see here is we're back in the tenancy, this time as an administrator, and what we're going to do is we're going to go and actually get rid of Nestor. So we're going to come over. We can see. You can see here, we're going to go into the admin portal. We're going to go into users, active users, and further down on here, we will see there's Nestor. So we're going to go into Nesta and we're going to delete him. So in a minute, it should let us delete him. There we go. Delete users. So he's been deleted. So while we're here as well, we're going to go across into our Azure tenancy. And if we click on users in here, look down, we should see that Nesta is now also absent from our Azure, as you'd expect. So Nesta's been taken out of there. And while we're in our Azure tenancy, let's play with something else as well. So we're going to go into our application registration. And we're going to look at our applications. So the first application is actually the one we're using to do this backup. That one is the one that we're using to our 365 backup. And Salesforce is one of the default applications that's in this tenancy. And what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to delete it. So you can see at the top, it's been successfully deleted. And now what we're going to do is we're now going to just have a look. So we can see there's Nesta's mailbox. We're going to hit refresh on it. And something went wrong because it's not there anymore. So we can see now that, you know, we've quite effectively removed Nesta from this tenancy. Come on. So let's bring Nesta back. So we're going to come into our backup tool, and we can see in here that that we've got the backup job. So we're going to go into the backup job. Since we've deleted Nesta in the background, we've actually done another backup. So if we click on here, we can see that we've got a new backup there at the bottom, and there's been 7 differences counted in that backup. So we're now going to go into the restore tool. And we've got our Azure restore at the end, and we can see we've got a new restore point there on the 9th. So we're going to click on the restore point. And we can now see all the changes that we've had. So we can see that there's some groups there that Nesta was in and he's not in anymore. So therefore they've changed. We can see the change at the top in the SharePoint listing. So what we're now going to do is we're going to revert those changes. So we're going to go over to the side and we're going to select the changes that we want to revert. So we're going to click restore. And behind the scenes, those restores have been added to a queue to do the restores. So we've restored Nesta. Oops. So let's have a look. So we're in here now, and we've come into we've come back into the Azure tenancy. So if we go first into the application registration, and we'll see that the Salesforce app is there back at the bottom of the applications. We can see it's got the same web URL link as it had before. And we can see, and we'll now go over and have a look at the user list. So we can see from here that Nesta is back in the tenancy. We can see that it is back in the 5 groups he was in before. We can also see from that screen that he's got the same applications as he had before. So all the same Active Directory settings as he had originally. So next thing is we're going to come back over to where we had Nesta, and let's sign in with Nesta. So we're going to come into here, we're going to paste the password in. We had to reset the password because obviously for security reasons we're not going to back up passwords. So we're going to reset it to a new password. And we can see now that we have Nesta back. So Nesta's back. Is a bit barren at the moment because he's got no data, but he's back with the same settings. So if we go into his Outlook, we can see that there's nothing in there at all. So we've achieved the first part of this restore in that we have done the Azure recovery. So next up then, you've got mail. So in this section, let's get his mail back. So we're going to connect now into our restore tool again, and this time we're going to go to the Exchange restore. So we're going to come down here, and we're going to find Nesta. There he is, and we've got Nesta's mail here. So we're going to go into the restore. We're going to restore back to the original location. We'll just authenticate. And very shortly, the Nesta's mail items have been restored. So let's just go and check that out. So here we go. Nesta's mailbox now with all its stuff back into it, and we can see that he's got his emails that he had in there before. So that is sort of just an initial demonstration. We can also do that with OneDrive files as well, and SharePoint files, so we can bring back all the files back in and basically repopulate Nesta and get him back, or reset any other attributes that we have within Azure, within the Azure AD Entra ID portfolio. So that's part one of our presentation. So let's come on to a little bit more now. So again, another thing that we've announced, another new thing from us, Veeam plus CloudCover plus Cleanroom. So why and what is this? So businesses, if they get affected by ransomware, using our Cloud Connect service or using scale-out repositories means that you've got off-site copies of your data. So you've got a secondary backup that's not on your premise, therefore won't be encrypted. So the challenge is, what do you do next? Lots of people focus on backup and actually don't think so much about recovery. So how would you recover that data? So having the scale-out repositories is fair enough, but they're not on your premise, tend to be on object storage. And in reality, if you want to restore them and you've got a lot of data, you're going to have to bring all that data back to somewhere in order to get yourself back up and running. You know, do you have spare hardware around? Quite often what we find in these events is you call your insurance company, you try and invoke your ransomware insurance, and they spend a couple of days just investigating what's going on, what they think they can restore, what they can't restore, etc., or what they think they can get back without going to restores. So this clean room is giving you an option to that. So you know, if you haven't got an isolated environment as well, you know, you could bring your stuff back and still have infections floating around on your network that it re-encrypts it. And then finally, do you have the skills? And I didn't mean to hit that button, but do you have the skills to actually make sure that this backup's clean and clear of ransomware? So that's the why. So what have we done? So we've got our Cloud Connect backup, and it's coming into our data center. And basically our data center's got all the resources we need close by, close to where the data is stored, to get you back up and running. So using some of the Veeam filters, we can actually cleanse your data and actually get it back up and running in a clean room, probably within hours, as opposed to within days or within the large download time. And what this is doing is giving you the opportunity to have a copy of your data somewhere else that isn't on your premise, that's been cleaned as much as Veeam can. Or actually, if you want enhanced cleaning, we've got people that can go in and actually clean that up for you. Or alternatively, we can bring this up and let your people or let you come in and clean this stuff up. So the idea being is very quickly, you've got an environment that you can use. You pay to use it, but it's available to all our Cloud Connect customers as a service should they need to invoke it. So once you've got it clean, you've got lots of options as to what you want to do. You know, do you want to use the clean room? Do you want to bring the data back to your on-prem? Do you want to use it temporarily and then bring it back to on-prem? So just giving you the flexibility and the speed of recovery that you need in this sort of emergency. So CloudCover plus clean room. So let's say we're adjacent. So our environment's adjacent to where our storage is, which means you're going to get a lot faster recoveries than you will from scale-out repositories. The data, moving data from object storage can be slow. So this really does improve on your recovery time objectives. You can ensure that your environment's clean before you reintroduce it to your business. Actually, off-prem, make sure you've got rid of all the nasty stuff that might be floating around. And you can access your data really quickly while you're waiting for your insurance companies. I put pontificate, it's a good word for me, that, but while they're working out what they're going to do. And finally, it helps avoid this ransomware loop of thinking you've cleaned it and then end up with it reinfected, etc., etc. So why the insurance company is investigating and working out how it got in the first place, once they've stopped that, gives you gives you more opportunity then to put your data back in. But it's still not as fast as replication. That's a different thing. So we've got any questions slide in here. I don't know if we can ask any questions, if anyone wants to put questions in chat. So if not got any questions in chat, which is good, because it means I don't have to answer any. So the second part of our presentation then, we had Pierre from Veeam. So Pierre's job in Veeam is he looks at the market, looks at the Veeam products, and compares how Veeam fits into that portfolio. And Pierre was kind enough to do that for us as well. So he's looked at how we fit into the market, how we compete with everybody else. And as I said initially, it was quite an eye-opener for us. I mean, we really established that we've got a Rolls-Royce solution that does more than most other people do on the market. So I'll hand over to Pierre now and on this pre-recording, and you can see what Pierre had to say.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me today. As Nikki said, I'm Pierre.
Oh, can we hear that?
I can hear it okay, but if you go in the bottom, maybe turn the sound up on the actual video itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
So our role is to help our partners or customers or Veeam sales reps understand how Veeam and partners compares to the competition. And today with virtualDCS, we wanted to give you a tour about the virtualDCS platform, and more specifically for how it compares to vast competitors like the AvePoint, the Druva, the Metallic, the Skykick, the Spanning, when it comes to protecting Microsoft 365 environments. I'm going to go through just a couple of slides. If you have any questions or comments from your own experience, please feel free to just jump in or let Nikki know, and we can address it as it goes or at the end of the presentation. And so if I start, the first thing that strikes me when I look at virtualDCS and I compare them to our top competitors for 365 backup is the fact that the first advantage that virtualDCS has over these vendors is the fact that virtualDCS can help you and your customer, protect a way broader set of workloads than these smaller competitors. Because not only does virtualDCS protect 365, but using the Veeam platform, they can really protect a broad set of virtual workloads on premises, physical workloads, applications, cloud workloads, Kubernetes, etc. When you look at our top competitors for Microsoft 365 environments, as I said, the likes of AvePoint, the like of Spanning, Barracuda, Backupify, etc., where these vendors were really designed to protect SaaS. So they rarely go beyond protecting Microsoft 365, Salesforce, and maybe Google Workspace. Meaning that with virtual, that DCS, you get like one platform for all your needs, whereas with them, you're going to have silos of separate solutions, separate vendors. The only exceptions I would emphasize for that might be Druva and Metallic, because these two vendors have a quite broad support for workloads, but that's pretty much the only two that can stand a chance out of the top 25 BaaS vendors that we compare with. The second thing that is interesting, if you don't dive just in Microsoft 5, but take a bigger look or higher look at the general platform, is the fact that by going beyond Microsoft 5, virtualDCS not only covers more workloads, but they also offer more data protection services. Because when you look at the portfolio of virtualDCS, you can use them to do backup to the cloud. You can do backup copy, backup archive. The point is that they give you different ways or different ways to implement your data protection strategy. It's not just direct backup only or backup copy only, etc. Give you a flexibility in how you protect the different workloads with virtualDCS. And again, if we come back to our top BaaS competitors, they're really designed to do just a backup direct to the vendor cloud. That's it. They don't let you do specific backup copies, from your on-premises stuff to their cloud to have a secondary isolated copy, or they don't let you do backup archiving to their cloud. So they're really designed for a one trick or one way of protecting your data only. So that's another problem that we've seen with them. Another thing that I can bring up, but again, that's not applicable to 365, but that's a way to just go beyond the 365 conversation with virtualDCS, is the fact that virtualDCS, has implemented Veeam in a way where they can really offer a broad scope of RPO, RTO for the customers. And by that, I mean that because, they don't just do backup like what 95% of our BaaS option does, but they offer you, backup, they offer you replication, standard replication, they offer you CDP-based replication. They offer you different ways of protecting the data that will deliver, the different, with CDP, the lowest RPO in the industry for your critical data. And then they give you normal replication for your important data or just backup for all the rest of your data. So they can really adapt the level of RPO, RTO to the criticality of your data. When we look at our competition that does BaaS or DRaaS, they typically focus on one way of protecting data. It might just be backup and backup copy. It might just be CDP if you think about Zerto, or it might just be replication, standard replication, but they typically don't have that breadth of means of protection, and they cannot offer that breadth of RPO, RTO. So these two, the breadth of workload support and the breadth of backup, or I shouldn't say backup, but level of protection that virtualDCS can offer with you to customers is pretty unique. Now, if we were to dive specifically to Microsoft 365, when I look at virtualDCS and I compare them to our top BaaS competitors, the first thing that strikes me was around the pricing licensing model. Number one, it's interesting because it's pretty flexible in the sense that they let you, choose a per user model or more like a capacity-based model. So they give you the flexibility based on what your needs are, your environment is like, to choose one of the two options to find the one that is most appealing to you. When you look at our competition again for Microsoft 365 Backup as a Service, the only one that comes to my mind that can do something similar is just AvePoint. All the rest, they just license you by user. So they don't offer that flexibility that virtualDCS offers, that give you that kind of that price that can be way more competitive than the competition. The second thing is if you just look at list price, so virtualDCS starts at £30 per user per year. And actually, that's lower than our competitors. So if I were to just give you the big picture of our top competitors, you know, the Druva, the Metallic, the F-Point, the Barracuda, Backupify, Spanning, etc., they're on their list price ranges from 35 to 39 pounds per user per year, starting point list, I emphasize. So already, you know, we have a more affordable list starting price point than the competition. But the interesting aspect of that too is that when I look at what is included in the virtualDCS licensing for the £30 a user a year, not only is it lower than the competition, but it also delivers more capabilities. It offers more benefits because this license of virtualDCS includes far more capabilities actually than our competitors. If I were to cite a couple examples, is the fact that virtualDCS offers, you know, the unlimited storage. When you look at our competition, our competitors are moving away from unlimited storage. Examples being lately Metallic, which removed their unlimited storage and capped it to 50 gigabytes for the highest license and 5 gigabytes for the lowest license. Druva has a similar approach, Rubrik Bass has a similar approach, etc. So that's one interesting example for customers that we're going to charge you less, but deliver more to you. Same thing, another capability that virtualDCS offer that very rare competitors offer is the fact that virtualDCS lets you customize your RPOs for Microsoft 365 data, and I will cover that in a minute. Whereas competitors is just like everything is outcoded by them. The backup jobs, the backup frequencies are outcoded by them. You don't control anything, and if it does not fit your business needs, it's too bad for you. Or virtualDCS also offers very sophisticated, I should say, search capabilities for Microsoft 365 data, and our competitors are very basic search, and some of them even charge an extra add-on license to get some decent search capabilities, which are still not as good as what is included in virtualDCS core licensing. So I think that's an interesting one to open the conversations, you know, with customers, I guess. And as I mentioned, you know, not only is it lower price than the competition, but it offers more capabilities. One of them being the ability to control your backup and your RPOs. That's a differentiator I see that may resonate pretty well with your larger customers or your more sophisticated customers. And the point here is like we want to get the customers to tell us what critical data they have in Microsoft 365. Have them point to you which users are really critical users, which sites are critical, which OneDrives are critical, etc. And then ask them how much data they can afford to lose for these users, OneDrive, Teams, whatsoever. Because the point is that if they can get you to say, if they can get to understand that they have critical data and it needs RPO below 6 hours, 5-6 hours, then basically 90% of the other BaaS solution in the market today will not fit their needs anymore. And the reason is that when you look at, again, our top 25 competitors for Microsoft 365 backup as a service, they are basically, almost all of them are basically designed to do one backup a day. There are a couple of exceptions. If you think about Metallic, it's designed to run backup every 8 hours. F-Point is from 1 to 4 times a day. So it can be as low as 6 hours if my math is correct. But the point is that the moment you get them to realize they have data that needs RPO below these 6 hours, you basically become the sole solution that could fit them. And that's one thing that is nice with virtualDCS is that customers can customize the backup schedule themselves and they can get RPO as low as 2 hours. So really better fit for your critical data, like if you think about your C-level mailboxes, these kind of things. Another thing that is interesting with virtualDCS when you look at Microsoft 365 backup specifically is the fact that they enable customers to create different backup policies with different RPOs for the same organization. So you think about like they could say, we want a gold policy for our C-levels with a 2 hours RPO. We want silver for managers with RPO a bit higher. And we want a bronze for all the rest of our users with a 24-hour RPO or something like that. And then you can basically allocate the right protection level to your different users based on their value to your business. So you can have that more tiered strategy of how to protect your users and how to prioritize the important users in the gold versus the less important ones in the bronze. So that's a differentiator for like sophisticated or large environments. And it's a differentiator because when you look at our best competition, again, out of the 25, there are like three vendors that can do that. The other 22, basically, they have a single backup schedule to protect all your emails, another backup schedule to protect all your OneDrive, etc. So your C-level, mailboxes are getting backed up with your intern mailboxes, and you have no control into which one is prioritizing down the list. So that's where I see that virtualDCS really does a way better job in helping customers get the right level of protection, the right backup strategy compared to other vendors. There's a third argument we can bring up, but that one does not resonate as often, I would say. It's about unlimited retention. I don't think it's as a differentiator as the others, because I will tell you that we still have over half the competition that offers unlimited retention, as long as you keep renewing your subscription, of course. But it's still something to keep in mind when you have conversation with your customers, because when they consider you and virtualDCS versus something else, I will ask them to double check what's the retention period that the other solution is offering them, and if they can customize it. Because what we see is that other vendors are lowering the amount of storage per user, but they're also lowering the retention period to preserve margins. So we'll always double check with the customer to make sure that they know what retention period they will get with the other solution, and that they also verify that they can customize the retention to the period that they need. Because some vendors do not let you customize the retention period, and it's unlimited by default, and that's it. So if they cannot say by legal reasons, I just need 3 years, make sure that they tested that with the other solution, because some of them are not customizable on the retention. So, okay, we've backed up the data. Now it's time, we're starting to get our first request for restore because some users have lost data or such. And that's where I see that virtualDCS has another differentiator because it offers a more powerful search capability than the competition. And what that means for your customers is the fact that because we have a more advanced search, we can really minimize the workload when it comes to recovery for the administrators, because we can make it very quick and effortless for them to find the needle in the haystack. I'm going to give you 2 illustrations of why I see the virtualDCS search being better than the competition. The number one is that when you have an end user that comes to you and say, well, the CEO was working on the PPT XYZ, we can't find it anymore, but we don't know who created it and in which OneDrive it was, but we know the name of it was this. Well, with the competition, pretty much basically what happens is that they do search at the user level. So if the administrator does not know exactly the location of the file, they're going to have to go through, OneDrive number 1, do the search for that PPT. It's not there. I get out. I do a new search, OneDrive number 2, and you go down OneDrive per OneDrive until you find the OneDrive where the PPT was, and you find it there. Whereas with Veeam and virtualDCS, there is a central search across the OneDrive. So just put the name of the file, and it will tell you, well, we found a file meeting your search criteria in all these OneDrives at once. So for the administrator, it's really less manual work. It's going to save time, minimize kind of the downtime period for the end users waiting on that file. So that central source is a big deal for large environments. The other thing that is a big differentiator is the breadth of search filters that virtualDCS has made available to the administrators of the tenants, of the end users. Because, when you look at the competition, basically, I'm going to take the example of mailboxes. When you look at, I don't know, like a AvePoint, a Barracuda, a Backupify, a Spanning, and you want to do a search for an email, they'll give you filters like the recipient email address, of course, the sender email address, the subject of the email, and they give you the date, or they ask you for a range of date, but that's about it. If you go with virtualDCS and you look at the search engine that we have for just these the mailboxes, well, I forgot the exact number, but we have tens. So I think it's over 30 different fields we can search on. And to me, the value here is that if someone comes to you and don't really necessarily recall the sender or the subject, but they recall another piece of information about the email, with virtualDCS, you can still just search based on that. Whereas with the other vendors, like, yeah, if you don't give me the subject or the sender, I can't look for it for you. And the administrator is stuck manually browsing through folders of emails. So I think, yeah, the search capabilities really help with virtualDCS really help your tenant administrators simplify recovery and reduce the recovery time when they need to find a specific item for the end users. The other thing that could be interesting for you when you talk to large customers, that have thousands or even just hundreds, but hundreds of thousands of end users using Microsoft 365, is that with virtualDCS, you can go talk to the customer and talk to the administrator and tell them that we can make their life a bit easier by, again, reducing their workload when it comes to recovery by having the administrator delegate the restores to the end user themselves. And that is just due to the way virtualDCS has built this end user self-service portal for Microsoft 365 Backup as a service. And I see a couple of differentiators between virtualDCS self-service portal and the rest of the Microsoft 365 Backup service solutions. And I'm going to make it very simple. When you look at the industry today, again, we have identified 25 other serious Microsoft 365 BAS backup as a service vendors. When you look at these 25 competitors of ours, half of them don't even offer a self-service portal or anything like that. So already, just by offering a self-service portal, we have a differentiator over half the competition. And now if you look at the half of the competition that offers a self-service portal, I see a couple of things that make virtualDCS stands out. The number one is that virtualDCS offers self-service portal for Exchange, OneDrive, and SharePoint. And when you look at the competition, there's only a handful of the other solutions in the market that can offer that breadth of support for Microsoft 365 services. If you think about it, typically, a good chunk of this remaining half of the competition, they offer self-service only for Exchange or only for OneDrive, or for Exchange and OneDrive only, that's it. So we have a slight advantage over them by having that, for more services than they do. The second thing that I feel is also a nice differentiator for virtualDCS over most of the competition is the fact that it's pretty simple to set up, and just the way it is integrated with Microsoft 365 and Azure Entra ID, make it pretty effortless for the administrators to make it available to the end users. And again, when you look at half the competition that offers the self-service portal, but out of that half of the competition, half of it does not make it as easy to set it up, and typically requires the tenant administrator to manually create user groups, manually grant authorizations to these user groups. So I think, for me, like showing, the virtualDCS self-service portal to your customers, administrators during demo is a good way to differentiate yourself from the rest of the market, showing them how you can, again, relieve the workload or lower the workloads for them. Another one that is interesting too is, today it's all about security, ransomware, cyber threat, etc. And the interesting thing is that when you look at the data protection market as a whole, we have quite a lot of advanced technologies and advanced processes to protect backups from ransomware and stuff, like for virtual environment on premises, for physical servers on premises, for cloud. But when you look at Microsoft 365 data protection, actually it's not the ransomware protection capabilities are really in their early stage. So you'll hear a lot of BAS vendors talk about how the backup are immutable, or how secure their cloud is, or how they can detect whatever, but it's still mostly marketing when you try the solutions actually. And so that's where with the way how virtualDCS is developing their Microsoft 365 BAS, that's where I see that it's soon enough it will have a nice differentiator in terms of how it can make your Microsoft 365 backup more resilient than the competition. And I'm going to start by talking about backup immutability. So you're going to hear a lot of vendors talk about, oh, we have backup immutability for Microsoft 365. When it is like that, when the customers, comes to you and say, hey, what do you do for immutability? Because the other solution is going to make it immutable. I will really challenge that, because when we look at, again, our top 25 competitors and their statement that they were like doing backup immutability, we only found 5 that offered true backup immutability, meaning that they used object lock to lock the file so that no one could delete it. The rest were claiming backup immutability, because they will say it's in a separate cloud from the customer cloud, it's using different credentials, and we have good role-based access and MFA. So they were claiming immutability because they were doing quite a good job at access security only. But my point with that is that the moment someone breaches their access security, the backups could be deleted. A good example would be AvePoint, where they'll tell you it's very secure stuff. But if you get access to the console, you can manually delete any data you have from the backup yourself as an administrator. So we have to make sure the customers don't buy into the fact that, oh, it's immutable because the access is secured. And that's where I see that virtualDCS has started to develop some interesting capabilities. And the first one that they brought up was the fact that they have some way to lock your backup file. By default, it's locked for 14 days so that you cannot delete them. So even if someone, attack the infrastructure or get access to your data, or you have a customer administrator that gets pissed and wants to try to delete stuff, or like something happens at the human level, they have a technology in the back end that will protect your backup so that no matter what happens, you still have be deleted by anyone. So that is what we can talk about and name backup immutability. Another thing, and that one I'm going to be very careful because virtualDCS brought that up to me. It's not available yet, but it's a work in progress. But I think that will be, once it's there, it's going to be a very interesting conversation it's going to be a very interesting differentiator that will bring valuable conversation with your customers, is the fact that virtualDCS is looking at, offering backup copy, as I understood. And I think that's going to open up a whole new conversation with the customers that other vendors cannot have. Because when you think about data security and data resiliency, it's about access security, which virtualDCS does as well, as if not better than the other vendors with good role-based access, MFA, etc. But it's also about following the 3-2-1 rule, having like 3 copies of your data on two different types of storage, and one is remote. Well, if you look at the BAS, the Microsoft 365 BAS competition nowadays, AvePoint, Spanning, Skykick, whatsoever, they don't do backup copy. They just do direct backup to their cloud, and they don't copy the backup anytime afterwards. Their approach is that they leverage the cloud storage resiliency of Azure AWS, and they will tell you that's what they have. So technically, you have 3 copies of your data in Azure AWS. And that's what every vendor does in this industry. That's a good foundation to protect you from hardware failure, but it does not protect you from accidental deletion or cyber threat, because if something happens to your backup and like it gets modified in a way, that modification gets replicated by AWS or Azure to the other copies. So it's really not making you resilient against anything beyond hardware failure. So that's where I think, having the ability to do backup copies to a separate location or a separate storage region or storage type, it's going to give us a more interesting conversation and a more advanced way of making you resilient. That way, if something was to attack the backup, you'll get the isolated backup copy that will be so separate that it will be safe from that attack. And as I said, the other vendors, no, they don't do backup copy. It's not in their business model. It's not in their technology. So I think that's another conversation to keep in mind as we get more and more questions about security, ransomware, etc. And I think Richard, Nikki, that's pretty much the top differentiators I wanted to highlight today. I talked a lot. I'm going to pause there. Any comment or question on your side of the world?
Okay, so that was a snippet section of the presentation that Pierre did for us at our event on the 10th of November. Obviously, we can't get him to directly answer any questions for you right now, but if you do have anything that you would like to know, if you send them to us either in the chat or in the contact details coming up shortly, we'll endeavour to get everything answered for you. Interestingly enough as well, as an example of kind of how quickly things are progressing and innovations taking place within the CloudCover suite, is that this was actually done before Azure Backup was taken into consideration, and the backup functionality that Pierre was just talking about as well within CloudCover 365 in the second location is actually available now. So I think hopefully that's kind of covered everything and all the exciting features that we've got coming up, and a recording will be sent around to everyone shortly as well, so you can rewatch it back, because there was a lot of information for about the whole session, but hopefully you've found it useful. And if you'd like to contact the team as well, there's a handy slide right in front of you now where you can find some details. And if you're feeling particularly festive as well, you can also take part in our festive advent calendar, which is going on at the moment as well. So again, thank you very much all of you for joining. If you have any questions, like I said, please feel free to reach out and speak to the team. And again, a special thank you as well to Veeam for sponsoring the event and the webinar that has come hand in hand with this. So thank you all for attending.